Welcome to Top Guns, HR that moves the business, the podcast where leadership meets candor and big ideas meet real world experience. I'm your host, and today we have an extraordinary line of speakers. Jasmeet Bhatia, President HR, Ashok Leyland, Lakshmipriya Somasundaram, Head Corporate HR and Communication, George Oaks, and Sujoy Roy, Senior Director Sales, Human Capital Management, SAP SuccessFactors. Let's start with the first question. Automotive and diversified manufacturing are two industries that are deep rooted in India's industrial story, but now at the brink of reinvention. So, what are the two priorities, HR priorities, that sit on top of your agenda at this point of time? Let's start with you, Jasmeet.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I think reinvention is the word here. Ashok Leyland as an organization, it's been over 7 decades in the country, making a lot of products for the country, buses, trucks, defense equipment. And we've done very well as an organization in terms of building what the customer needs. At the same time, the words that we are hearing today are electric vehicles, software-defined vehicles, battery management systems, and this is not future, this is happening now. So one of the priorities that we are thinking about is reskilling at scale. You know, we've got great people in our engineering departments, in our plants, people who've been working 20, 30 years. They know the product in and out, okay, and they've got that passion that comes with that working for that long. And we can't expect a diesel powertrain engineer to wake up tomorrow and understand how a software for a vehicle works or how the battery will integrate with the motor. So we've got to do that structured intervention, and we've got to do it at scale because that's how the world is moving. So I would say the priority is big around really looking at how do we future focus our talent. And the second one is also the leadership. There is a generational shift that is happening in our organization, in most organizations. At any time, 3 to 4 generations are working together, and majority of the top part of the organization is going to retire in the coming years. So really future-proofing ourselves on the skill and the leadership side.
Got it. Lakshmi?
Thank you, Puja, for having me here.
So I think at George Oaks, one of our focus areas right now has been on ensuring that we're building workforce agility at scale. So I think, in the automotive and the manufacturing sectors across, one of the critical priorities right now is ensuring how do we systematically navigate different priorities around digitization, changing business models. There's lots of shifts in the business models. There's the focus on automation, etc. So what this means is that the shelf life when it comes to skills, that's sort of shifting rapidly. So how are we able to respond to that? How do we make sure that in the operating system, as our people go out and work in the plants, are out there working in the sales and dealer ecosystems, etc., how can we ensure that they're able to sync and feel the purpose of the business, ensure that there is a lot of focus around continued learning journeys for them on the field. This makes it easy for them to integrate the business priorities with the business realities as it plays out in the marketplace. And I think the second focus for us would be on looking at strengthening the entire leadership as well as the depth of the talent across the value chain. What this means is that we would be, for us in a business like ours, the people run the business, and the business priorities are entirely integrated around how well the business purpose is articulated to them, how well they are equipped to be able to deal with the operational challenges as they play out. And the role that HR, I think, plays here is to make sure that we're not just sort of driving the transformation or the support from the sidelines, but becoming central to the entire transformation process, ensuring that there's effective performance that's secured, effective focus on business outcomes. That's my take.
Sujoy, both Jasmeet and Lakshmi represent organizations that are navigating legacy, scale, and transformation simultaneously. Where does a platform like SAP SuccessFactors enable them to navigate this complexity?
Legacy actually causes fragmentation, which leads to below par transformation. I know customers have always been incrementally adding systems like payroll in one system, talent management in another, learning systems in another. So if you want to deploy new age ways of working, say for example agile structures, things like skill-based assignments, you need to have a unified platform. Secondly, as organizations grow organically as well as geographically, you cannot deploy HR teams at scale, right? So products like SuccessFactors allow you to automate compliance, things like talent management, reporting at a very marginal cost. So it's basically a growth enabler.
Leadership pipelines have been a major responsibility for CHROs. But you know, the definition of leadership itself has changed drastically. So how do you ensure you're developing leaders for organizations of tomorrow and not for organizations of yesterday?
Yeah, I would say partially we are there, and I would say this for most organizations in the industry. Identifying leaders or succession pipeline has been done on a certain code or a formula or the tools that we've had. They've been based on, pieces of information or, things like tenure, things like have people done different kind of roles in the company? Do they understand everything about the product, how an engine works, how the axle works, what are the customer relationships, how are we really successful, our go-to market, all of that. So basically looking for leaders and developing them into leaders who have the answers and they get into those roles and they command how these things work. I think what the future needs is leaders who are comfortable with the question, leaders who are comfortable with the ambiguity to let the right answers come out, people who can be comfortable getting information and talking to the software team versus the supply chain, understanding the geopolitics of the supply chain, talking to the shop floor factory, and really being able to put all that together and see what are the right answers. And I think the tools and the code of the past that we've used might not give us the right answers. And that's why I say partially what we're trying to do is to go early in the leadership search or the leadership development, looking at people in their mid-career, really challenging them with ambiguity related assignments, places where the answers are not clear, crazy assignments where they have to do something which most people think is not possible. And that gives us that test of that skill set, which will tell us if it's working, if we're getting the right leaders or not. I think a lot of rewiring is needed for this entire thing, and the time is now for the rewiring.
Lakshmi?
I feel that I have to echo similar points. The challenge for the leadership today is not just as much of working on driving systems for effectiveness, especially in manufacturing sectors. You would see that the system is built around operational controls. There's a lot of predictability and execution discipline that's stressed on. But I think the leaders, as they prepare for the challenges tomorrow, they have to understand that there is going to be far greater ambiguity in terms of how information is structured, how the systems for information and decision making are flowing through. So definitely there should be an emphasis that gets laid therefore on building in processes that aid innovation, that aid mid-level teams to think about the bigger problems, including them in the discussions, the strategic discussions where the management layer is trying to solve for certain problems of the future. And ensuring that the methods for grooming them, assessing them, and giving them opportunities are all, even if it is around giving them projects, giving them opportunities to work on areas that are not, where we're not looking to solve for it today, but we know that this could emerge potentially as an area of focus tomorrow, right? Then get them involved early. I think that's going to be very essential to ensure the leadership pipeline of the future.
Sujoy, leadership pipeline decisions are as good as the data behind them. And HR sits on a mountain of data through multiple, systems. How does a platform, unified platform like SAP SuccessFactor, enable intelligence in a unified manner and unlock smart decision making?
So SuccessFactors actually takes fragmented data from multiple systems like performance, succession, and gives one complete unified and makes it an intelligent system. So CHRs don't have to take data from multiple systems and do a lot of guesswork. So you get one complete talent profile, whether it is competencies, skills, engagement scores, and performance trajectory. And then CHRs can then take a lot of contextual calls, right? Secondly, a unified platform allows you to test the system, right? Whether you want to see if your top performer is going to leave, whether you want to grow business in one segment by 30% without changes in quality. So this simulation capability with the data that is there allows CHROs then to have a very dynamic workforce, and your succession chart then moves from a static environment to a dynamic workforce. This helps in business continuity and things like go-to-market.
Jasmeet, automation is no longer a future threat. It is there on the shop floor and office alike. How are you redesigning roles, jobs, and employee experience when the boundary between humans and machines are changing rapidly?
I heard someone talk about the threat of automation to workers. And I've always felt that automation is what we make it to be, okay? If we look at our factories, we've evolved our factories to workers making trucks and buses by hand, doing every single thing. And then slowly machines coming to at least tighten the screws or nuts or start bending the metal sheets. And we've evolved through all of those stages. I think the fun with automation happens when we don't ask the question that what kind of headcount saving comes out of automation. The fun happens when we say, okay, what does the human get to do now? Okay. So if there were workers who were picking up these heavy spray guns and spraying and painting parts of our vehicles, now there are robotic arms doing it, and the human can get to oversee the entire system, that is it done properly, are the quality checks done, and can do the work at 3 stations simultaneously. And that kind of high quality work with efficiency is what automation brings, and that's the beauty of it. It goes into the offices also. I think a lot of transactional work, which is repetitive, done by a lot of back-end departments, can be easily automated, and a lot of now tools automate that for us. And the question is the same. What does the human get to do now? How do we get human decision making in the forefront of doing this? Like in HR, I always say, HR people should not be collecting data. HR's work should start when the data is right there, and what do we do with that data? How do we take decisions with that data? And I think the part that I keep thinking about is the employee experience part now. What happens when a machine or a process finds an error in the work that a human has done? How does the team react to it? How do we take care of mistake proofing it? Or what happens when an AI tool gives an answer or a stand which our engineers don't like? How does the team react to it? How do we move ahead from that? And that's where I think the human machine dynamics have to evolve, and that's where I think HR playbooks don't have an answer today. It's fun times ahead.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the future added KRA of CHRO to manage the conflict between humans and machines.
Yes.
Which side to take. Lakshmi, there has never been a time when a CHRO's role has been that visible or probably that scrutinized. To really earn a seat at a business table, what does it really take from a CHRO?
I think fundamentally it's about, literally espousing the entire business reality. And it's very important, I feel, for the HR function to sort of shift from its positioning. In a lot of places, you still see the positioning as a support organization or as an enabler. Moving from that into a very active player in securing business outcomes. That being said, what does it take, right? I think at a fundamental level, from across the leadership down to your entry-level talent in the HR teams, it's about getting them aligned to business realities, making them part of the business conversations, ensuring that they're equally accountable for the business outcomes. So is the metric to kind of assess the success of a HR function around just what it delivers, or is it directly linked to what the business has delivered and where its priorities lie, right? And like I said, in most businesses today, the parts that drive the business are entirely driven by how people look at it, how people are able to design systems to support it. So I think in that sense, HR has more active role to play today than earlier. And of course, there is now the influence of technology, the disruptions that come with it, the mandates that have now started to shift around not just securing business outcomes, but also ensuring that talent of the future is aligned to, to cater to the future business outcomes. Considering all of that, I think it's about HR really positioning itself as a value creation partner and completely being aligned to the business and its needs.
Yeah. So, data does play a big role in that. So to that point, Sujoy, I'd like to ask you that how can a platform like SAP SuccessFactors help HR leaders to make decisions using insights more than instinct and play a bigger role in business?
So SuccessFactors moves away people from gut feel to real hard data. You have predictive analytics and real-time dashboard, which allows you to see what is happening around retention, around performance management. It also, what it does, it connects talent to business strategy. You can consolidate and or you can cascade goals, business objectives to goals. You can then compensate the right person for the right job. And you can also look at workforce planning to predict capability gaps. So when you are taking that data and presenting to to executives and telling them how you impact your talent strategy is impacting business, that is when HR is driving the system rather than HR drives. So HR is becoming more predictive than reactive, right? Also, the advent of AI is going to definitely cause organizational change management. So HR has always been the go-to person to look at new jobs, look at skill development, right? So right team to then manage this change development as we move forward.
Interesting. Now we need some bold answers from you. So Jasmeet, what is that one thing the CHRO of 2030 would be doing, which you're not doing right now?
I would say, just like the CFO brings the financial intelligence report, the CHROs would be bringing a workforce intelligence report, not lag indicators like attrition and headcount, but things which will predict and tell how the business is going to move, how the risk is going to move.
Interesting. Lakshmi?
I think it would be around ensuring that we humanize the workplace experience around technology. The main focus, as I see it, for the CHR of the future is going to be around, the traditional systems or, context around people management, while that is there, but the way the constructs around which, things shape HR decisions, right? Are we going to be having a mixed workforce, the gig economy, its role, disruption from AI? How do we ethically also drive and integrate AI capabilities into the workforce? Are there risks from AI, which we need to kind of build into the policy frameworks, right? I mean, while we harness the benefits, what are the things that we need to be thinking of? I think these are going to be some of the things. So I reckon that the CHRO of the future is probably going to have to be a multifaceted professional, bring in expertise across organizational psychology, technology, understanding of perhaps the legal systems around AI, frameworks that are developing. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how we will also start building all our capabilities collectively.
So both of you feel that it's going to be yet a human. None of you are imagining the future CHRO to be a machine.
It is human resources at the end.
And ultimately, I think, an organization's held by its, I think the people connection, right, is central, I think, to what the organization drives both within as well as, outside of it. So long as I think that reality remains, then HR definitely, has a role to play.
So Joy, what will be possible with the SAP SuccessFactors platform, let's say 3 to 4 years from now, which is not there?
So technology is changing so fast. I would just predict for next 1 year.
Okay.
Right? So the skills are changing so fast that World Economic Forum says that 40% of the people's current skills will become redundant. So you need to reskill and unlearn and reskill all the time. Also, technology not alone does not create progress, right? It's the people that do, right? So SuccessFactors definitely believes that when you bring technology and people together with AI assistance augmenting human capability and working that within boundaries, right? And grounding that with ethics and governance, you create meaningful progress. So the system of record is moving to a system of action. So SuccessFactors earlier or currently tells you what is happening. So what it will do is that it will then make it happen for you, all through agents and autonomously, right? Some of the examples are like things like 24/7 agents. So in the night, somebody asks for a career path in the night to a SuccessFactor agent. What happens in the morning, he gets a complete plan, and then mentors are already connected, saying that, why don't you mentor this person? Things like intervention at scale. So if you have a person who's planning to leave the organizations, is then detected, what will do is that automatically it will send them a personal development plan thing, and also intimate the managers also about it, all of them autonomously. So a lot of things are coming and changing as we move along, but there will be a lot of change in the next year or so.
Yeah, great. After bold answers, we need some rapid fire answers from you. So let's start with Lakshmi this time. Lakshmi, what is that one belief that you held early on in your career that you would like to challenge today?
So I think early on in my career, I would have focused a lot around, participating in initiatives and practices that build for efficiency, systems for control, structure. There was a way in which decisions were taken. There was a certain kind of plan to how the hierarchy was set, how decisions move through the system. And I think from that, we've moved now to looking at culture being at the center of an organization, because culture is building for resilience, and I think resilience builds for preparedness towards any changes that come.
Yeah, Jasmeet?
I used to believe that loyalty to an organization is equal to tenure. I think that belief has completely changed as I've grown. I think loyalty is commitment and being candid. Committed to what we have to deliver, and candid in terms of questioning what we don't see right. And that is really loyalty to the organization.
Interesting perspective. Sujoy?
Yeah, I think learning and unlearning at any age is going to be very important. As technology changes, to keep yourself relevant, you have to do that, right? So that's becoming very important.
Sujoy, one metric every CEO, one HR metric every CEO should have in his or her dashboard.
I think employee turnover rate is one metric you should look at. Primarily, the high turnover rate looks at impacts company culture, things like leadership. So employee turnover rate is what I would look at.
Lakshmi?
I think it would be critical talent readiness, leadership pipelines, and more importantly, engagement. Still, I think it's very relevant because as organizations navigate change, you need a workforce that is truly aligned to your purpose and ensuring that they're highly engaged to your focus today and your direction for tomorrow. I think that makes a huge difference.
I would say the quality of succession planning. A lot of tools and systems which I was mentioning earlier give us number of names, number of people in our succession pipeline that these could be future leaders. But the real quality of those leaders, will we actually do what is written, is the test that CEOs should look at. That do we have real quality succession pipeline?
Succession pipeline. Jasmeet, AI in the workplace, risk or opportunity?
I would say neither. It's an opportunity if it enhances human decision making. It's a risk if it is used to avoid decision making and just have AI do the decision making.
Interesting. Lakshmi?
It's definitely more of an opportunity than a risk. But I think, however, organizations will see real value from it only if they have systems to be able to manage it responsibly. So I'd agree with Jasmeet to the extent that, yeah, how are we going to be using AI? How are we going to deploy it? Are we going to be using it to avoid decision making, avoid ownership? Or is it more around enhancing what we bring to the table? How do we collaborate better? How do we bring in the integration between man and machine, right? So that we're able to accelerate and get to business outcomes faster. I think that's what we should be doing.
Sujoy?
I think AI will bring the single most opportunity for companies as we go along. As long as you manage the risk of AI and work within the boundaries, look at ethics, compliance, governance, things like that. But the opportunity part of it definitely oversells the risk part of it. So as long as you can manage that and work within the, like I said, work within the boundaries, that's where you will gain and do effective change management. That is one important thing that you need to do.
So with that, we come to an end of this episode of Top Guns. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. If today's conversation sparked a thought, challenged an assumption, or gave you something to carry back to your organization, that's exactly what Top Guns is here for.